What's up, guys? It's Melodic Punk, and today I'm here to talk about the PS5, kind of my first week experiences, and give some recommendations and whatnot. But my history with PlayStation mainly started out with just going to cousins' houses and going to friends' houses, playing PS1, playing Tekken 3, and whatnot. I had a lot of friends that owned the PS2 growing up. I grew up with the GameCube. I had some friends that grew up with the Xbox, but I knew a lot of people with PS2. And then PS3, I've only knew like one or two friends that had that system because everybody that I knew, we were on the 360 and we were on Xbox Live and whatnot. And then PS4 was the first Sony console I've ever owned, mainly just because the Xbox One initially was just kind of disappointing. And then on top of that, all my friends that I played the 360 with, they were getting PS4s because of the bigger game library. So I ended up getting the original model PS4 that was bundled with The Last of Us Remastered. And it was a very good bundle, to come to think about it, because The Last of Us is an amazing game. And that was like one of the swan songs of the PS3 that everybody loved. But as I said in my Xbox video, I kind of went back and forth on PlayStation and Xbox while continuing to play on PC and just whatever Nintendo system was out at the time, which was the Wii U and then eventually the Switch. But, the PS4 had a lot of amazing games on there. There are a lot of games I have not beaten yet just because I haven't really had the time to sit down and play through them. But from what I have beaten, especially the games of God of War, and one of my favorite games on the system, Spider-Man, because I love Spider-Man, those games blew me away. And it kind of just proved that exclusives do matter when it comes to these consoles. The Xbox One was lacking in exclusives throughout most of its lifespan. And then anything that came out that was exclusive to the system, it was just kind of an okay experience. But there were game after game after game on the PS4 that was just, superb. It was getting 9s and 10s and whatnot. Some games were a little bit better than others, but overall I was impressed with PS4 when it came to the exclusives. And playing games like Spider-Man and seeing games like Miles Morales being a launch title for PS5, I knew back in September that, yeah, I'm getting the system day one. And I got the system mainly, if you've seen back in September, me, Merc305, Jess7780, Hustle and Motivate, The Ravenflow, Frog's Dreams, we were all kind of in a Discord together, and we were doing our live stream reactions of the PlayStation 5 event. And they stated that the PS5 would be available for pre-order on September 17th, which, fun fact, that's actually my birthday. But Walmart cracked the seal early and said, we're going to open up pre-orders tonight, September 16th, and every other retailer follows suit. So it was a madness trying to pre-order a PS5. I drove 80 miles down the highway to a GameStop to try to secure a system. They were sold out. And then I got lucky from watching somebody's live stream. They posted a link from Target that had the PS5 digital edition up for pre-order. So I went with that console because it was $100 cheaper, although I kind of regret going to the digital system because I want to be able to buy any PS4 game or PS5 game, used, or just borrow a game and just throw it in my system. But, there was limited options. You had to kind of now or never, it was that sort of thing. So maybe I'll get a disc-based PS5 later down the road, but right now I'm okay with rocking the digital edition because I have a lot of digital games on PS4 that are now playable on PS5 because of backwards compatibility. But yeah, overall, just the first impressions of looking at the system itself, this thing is a fucking beast. Holy shit, it's tall. The digital edition, though, looks very, very slim. I will say that I don't regret about buying the digital system. Is this system looks really, really nice. And it looks next gen. It looks like a fucking Alienware PC. That's what it looks like. It looks like one of the X51 Alienware PCs, except it has the white panels and whatnot. And yeah, just a very slim looking system. You get your power button, you got your USB 3 right there, you got your USB-C. You got two USB 3 ports right there. You got, goddamn, this is heavy. You got an Ethernet port right here, and then you also have an HDMI and your power adapter. And the system has been serving me pretty well the past couple days. I beat Spider-Man Miles Morales during my first weekend with the system, and it was a great game. I'm a big Spider-Man fan, so I had a lot of fun playing that game. But the one game I played first going into PS5 was Astro's Playroom, and this is where we talk about the DualSense controller. I bought one of my first DualSenses I bought back during Halloween just to have it for my PC, and I was like, okay, well, it feels fine. It feels like a fatter version of the DualShock 4. But then once you actually play PS5 software on it and experience the haptic feedback, some of the resistance features that the triggers can have on certain games, and just all that stuff, this is a revolutionary controller. Like, it's that good. Holy shit. It caught me out of surprise. Just like going into Astro's Playroom and doing the controller demo, they had something where it's just like they had all these little tiny robots fall into the controller, and as you moved it around, you can feel like the texture of all these little robots rolling around in the controller. And then on top of that, nothing new. This was on PS4, but they have a little speaker on here so you can hear all the noise that they're making as you're shaking the controller, and you just feel everything on it. And to me, that's fucking awesome. And let's say you're playing Astrobot, you're walking through grass, you can feel like the individual blades kind of trigger in the controller. If you're walking on ice, you can feel like a smoother, type of rumble. If you're just walking around on the metal floor, you feel the little pings as your character is walking around, and that's just something that's just really cool. It feels like there's individual, whatever. It's magic. Like, this shit blew me out of the water. It's so good. And something else that's new for this controller is it has a microphone button. You can mute this at any time, but let's say you're playing a game like Astrobot and you're required to blow air onto a propeller to get a platform moving. You have to blow into the controller. Stuff that we've seen on the 3DS and on the Wii U and whatnot, so it's nothing new there. But combined with just feeling your game going on, it's just amazing. And really, the controller is actually not that bad. I kind of like the smaller feel of the DualShock 4 a little bit more, but considering all the cool features in the controller, this thing is fucking rad. And I love it. It has a USB Type-C connection, which that should be a standard on everything now. But yeah, it feels really nice. And then you have your options button, your start menu button, whatever. You have the touchpad right here, which didn't really get a lot of love on the PS4. This was basically just like a glorified map button. And then you have the create button. Not a share button, it's a create button now. So you can hit it once, you have the option to go ahead and take a screenshot, start recording gameplay, and just do whatever. It gives you multiple options, and if you hold down the button, you can just take a screenshot only. And there's ways you can change that in the menu. But with the new features on this controller, I kind of hope that developers take full advantage of this controller going forward. Because the one thing about the PS4 is we had the touchpad, but I felt like this didn't get a lot of use outside of specific Sony games. Kind of like in The Last of Us Part 2, how you would have those elements where you're playing guitar as Ellie, you use the touchpad to emulate strumming on an acoustic guitar. So I really hope that developers actually take advantage of this, because this is a really cool controller. And if you're playing Call of Duty, or I'll use Astrobot because that's kind of the better example, because I don't have Call of Duty on PlayStation. There's this little crane game that you would go and put coins in to get collectible items out of the game. So you pull down the trigger to pull the lever. There's a little bit of resistance you can feel. And then as you're trying to break the capsule in the robotic hand, you feel the resistance on the trigger. It kind of, restricts you to fully press down on it. And that's something that's fucking awesome. And I love that. And then, of course, if you don't care about this, or if you're playing a competitive game, you can turn all that functionality off, and then this just becomes a regular controller. But, as much as I prefer the Series X controller just for PC gaming and just shooters and whatnot, because I kind of like the offset sticks better, this thing is revolutionary, and I really hope more developers will use it, because that's fucking awesome. As I've stated, Miles Morales was one of the first games I've beaten on the system, and then Astrobot was a packing game. The only other game I picked up was Sackboy's Grand Adventure, which I have not started yet because they're supposed to be adding online co-op a little bit later, and I kind of want to save that game to play through with people in the community. Maybe we'll live stream it. And then, of course, this largely supports a majority of the games of the PS4 library. If you have PlayStation Plus at the time of this video, congratulations, because you have 20 PlayStation 4 games that you can play on the system. And if you own a game like Days Gone, or let's say you bought Ghost of Tsushima, but you're like me and wanted to wait and play on PS5, you're getting the better version of that game. Because Ghost of Tsushima, Days Gone, those two examples, when you play the game on PS4, it is upgraded from 30 to 60 frames per second, which is fucking awesome. Because I even said, Ghost of Tsushima from what I played was amazing, but I wanted to wait till the PS5 came out just so I can play that game, and it's, the best version it can possibly be. And I'm so glad they added a 60 option for 60 FPS option for the PS5. So that just makes it really cool. I'm glad both Microsoft and Sony are kind of being more aware of backwards compatibility and trying to make that, your past experiences even better. That's something I value a lot out of these newer consoles, because if I can just take my library forward throughout the generations like I could on PC, that's something I'd want the consoles to do. Now, the UI, unlike Microsoft where they kind of just kept the same UI from the Xbox One, it is different on the PS5. It's a little bit more minimalistic. It's not too bad at first, but the PS5 is integrated into the main menu instead of going into the store as a separate app. It's just you scroll over to the PlayStation Store, you drop down, and you're in the store. The only complaint that I really have with PS5 is it has like your major streaming apps. It has your Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix, YouTube, all that. There are a lot of entertainment apps that are missing from the system that the Xbox One has. Because as I stated, Xbox One's UI is the same, but it makes it a more feature-complete console because you have all these apps to select from. Whereas on PS5, you won't be able to have things like HBO Max. And as somebody who's a subscriber of HBO Max, that kind of sucks. I know this is kind of just like bullshit, like it's a bullshit complaint because we buy this console for games, but it's something to be aware of when you're buying into the PS5 whenever you can get your hands on it. And then the cross menu bar, when you hit the PlayStation button, it'll bring up this little tiny game bar to where you can see your trophy progress, you can see how long certain missions take, you can find certain things that will help you out in a game, you can find your friends list, turn off your system, you can go to the selection that will allow you to immediately broadcast to Twitch. It's not a bad UI, it just somewhat feels a little bit bare bones. There's no folders that you can put your games into. And the one thing that really sucks right now about this console is that you can use an external drive to store and play your PS4 games on there, but your PS5 games are locked down to the system itself. That's understandable because for these next-gen games, you have to use the SSD because the games are going to take advantage of the faster loading time and just all the information that's processed within there. My biggest complaint comes from the fact, let's say, okay, I'm done with Miles Morales. I don't necessarily want to delete the game because I don't want to have to re-download it. I want to transfer it over to an external drive so I can just keep it there and then I can swap it back in and out whenever I want. You cannot do that. That sucks, Sony. Fix it. I know a lot of people are going to say delete your games, and I don't feel like re-downloading a bunch of shit, especially if I had the disc version of the system. If I'm installing all my games on disc, I want to have the option to say, okay, I'm done with this game. Let me put it into an external hard drive. That way, if I ever came back to it, I just transfer the game back and forth. There's nothing wrong with options, people. Like, some people want this feature. Don't sit there and gatekeep people just for keeping that thing from happening. It's about preservation, people. It's just people want to be able to transfer their games in and out and have options to be able to play their games in the future without having to delete and re-download shit all the time. So there's nothing wrong with the options. Sony, put that shit in there and give us folders while we're at it. But other than that, I've had a lot more fun playing on PS5 just because of the exclusive games that are on the system. And on top of that, there's even more games coming out. We have a new Ratchet & Clank that's supposed to be taking advantage of the PS5 SSD and how fast games load, which games load going in from like fast traveling to Spider-Man. It's literally just a click of a button and 2 seconds later, you're in that part of the map. Something I had to bring up quickly. Sorry, that came out of nowhere. But on top of that, we have a new God of War coming out probably late next year. That might get delayed though. And then you have the sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn, which is going to be on PS4 as well. But of course, with the PS5, you're going to have the better performance. You're going to have ray tracing options, and you're most likely going to have the faster loading times. So going into the recommendations of this console, if you're wanting to experience the faster load times, the amazing technology that's in the DualSense, and just overall the options for better frame rate or ray tracing and whatnot, get this system as soon as you can. But like I said in the Xbox video, if you're comfortable with playing Miles Morales or Sackboy on your PS4 Pro, you might want to hold off until more units are available, because we don't know exactly when Ratchet & Clank is going to come out. Some saying beginning of 2021. But that's kind of how I'm going in right now, because really the only game that you can play on PS5 and not any other system as of right now is Demon's Souls. Which, Demon's Souls, I've been hearing is an amazing game. I like Soulsborne games, I'm just not that good at them. But that's going to only appeal to a certain, like, select audience. So for me, it's just like, if you want instant like loading times in Spider-Man at 60 FPS, I would get it for that. Otherwise, I would probably hold off a little bit. Same with the Series X. If you're okay with playing certain games at 30 or having these deal with a slower hard drive for a little bit, I would say hold off. But if you're wanting to experience the definitive versions of those games, buy the consoles. But anyways, guys, this is kind of like my long drawn out video. I kind of did this a little bit unscripted. I was kind of inspired by Adam Corlick to do this direct style video talking about the new systems. The next videos, I'm going to return to form, doing gameplay videos with discussion on top of it. But I hope you enjoyed this series. I might continue to do these each year, just as anniversary videos. And yeah, that's all I got to say. This is Melodic Punk signing out. Let me know how you feel about the PS5 down below, and I'll see you all later. Peace.